Welcome back. In our last exploration, we ventured into the mysterious realm of Gnosticism, an ancient movement that sought salvation through secret knowledge called gnosis that freed the soul from the constraints of the material world. Today, we shift our attention to another profound current of thought from the ancient Mediterranean called Hermeticism. Like Gnosticism, Hermeticism arose in the cultural melting pot of the first centuries of our era, blending Greek philosophy, Egyptian religion, and other streams of ancient wisdom. Both share an emphasis on divine knowledge and the soul's ascent. Yet, where Gnosticism often viewed the material cosmos as a flawed or even hostile creation, Hermeticism embraced the universe as a living image of divinity, a sacred mirror where self-knowledge and cosmic knowledge are one. So what exactly is Hermeticism? Rooted in the syncretic wisdom of Hellenistic Egypt, Hermeticism presents a spiritual cosmology attributed to the legendary figure Hermes Trismegistus, whose name means Thrice-Greatest Hermes. The title evokes a composite being, Hermes, the Greek god of wisdom and communication, merged with the Egyptian deity Thoth, patron of writing, magic, and knowledge. This fusion created a symbolic teacher whose voice spoke across cultures, bridging the philosophical reasoning of the Greeks with the sacred science of Egypt. Hermetic thought emphasizes inner purification, gnosis, and the soul's return to divinity through knowledge of both the cosmos and the self. This pursuit of the divine was not seen as an escape from the world, but as an alignment with the divine principles manifest in it. Hermeticism represents a perennial philosophy that integrates diverse traditions into a unified spiritual worldview. This syncretism reflected a broader Hellenistic tendency to reconcile opposing worldviews, offering seekers a path that transcended rigid sectarianism. It is within this context that the figure of Hermes Trismegistus emerged, a legendary fusion of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth, both associated with writing, knowledge, and divine communication. This mythic persona provided a powerful symbolic foundation for a spiritual system focused on knowledge called gnosis and transformation. So, where do we actually find Hermetic teachings? Not in a single holy book, but in a small and varied collection of texts, each reflecting a stage in the tradition's long journey through the ancient and medieval world. The earliest and most important Hermetic writings are gathered in what is known as the Corpus Hermeticum, a series of Greek treatises composed between the 1st and 3rd centuries CE. These are philosophical and theological dialogues, often between the mythical Hermes and a student, exploring divine knowledge, the nature of God, the structure of the cosmos, and the soul's ascent through knowledge called gnosis. One central theme is that to know the universe truly is to know oneself, and to know oneself is to know God. These texts, attributed to the mythical figure Hermes Trismegistus, were compiled and edited later by Byzantine scholars. The collection was then translated into Latin during the Renaissance, notably by Marsilio Ficino. The opening of the Poimandres, the first tractate in the corpus, describes a transcendent God. God is not a god among gods, but the only God, the highest and greatest. This God transcends all dualities, embodying unity beyond all forms. Around the same time as the publishing of the Corpus Hermeticum, a Hermetic text known as the Asclepius came into being. This is a late antique Hermetic dialogue composed also between the 1st and 3rd centuries CE. Here, Hermes instructs Asclepius, a figure rooted in the Greek god of healing, on the unity of the spiritual and material worlds. The text emphasizes that true wisdom recognizes the divine in all levels of being, and that spiritual ascent is not an escape from the world, but the realization of the world's divine nature. To compare these two Hermetic works, the Corpus Hermeticum is a collection of philosophical and theological treatises emphasizing spiritual ascent and metaphysical concepts, while the Asclepius is a more practical, ritualistic text focused on religious practices and maintaining cosmic order through worship. Between the 2nd and 8th centuries CE, we come to perhaps the most famous Hermetic text, the Emerald Tablet. This short work of likely Arabic origin entered Europe through medieval Latin translations. This text is attributed to the legendary Hermes Trismegistus, but was likely written by anonymous authors influenced by Hellenistic, Egyptian, and Arabic philosophical traditions. Its most famous line, "As above, so below," expresses the Hermetic principle of correspondence, the idea that the macrocosm of the heavens and the microcosm of the human soul reflect one another perfectly. The Hermetic cosmos is thus a living organism, animated by a world soul, and humanity is uniquely positioned as the microcosm that reflects the macrocosm. This worldview emphasizes an innate connection between the human soul and the divine source, suggesting that self-knowledge is a path to cosmic knowledge. Hermetic thought also echoes Stoic ideals of living in accordance with the logos, the rational order of the universe, infusing its metaphysical framework with ethical dimensions. As you can see, Hermeticism is not a single unbroken philosophy, but a vast tapestry woven from many threads, philosophical, mystical, and scientific. Renaissance thinkers saw Hermeticism as the pure ancient theology that predated Plato and even Moses. This belief, though historically inaccurate, inspired centuries of philosophers, magicians, and alchemists. The Hermetic worldview became foundational to Western esotericism, alchemy, astrology, and theurgy. All drew on Hermetic ideas. The Emerald Tablet, in particular, became central to alchemical symbolism, suggesting that transformation in the laboratory mirrors transformation in the soul. Arthur Edward Waite, in The Occult Sciences, published in 1923, wrote, "The end goal of all initiation is identical with Hermeticism and with the ancient Greek mysteries alike. It is the conscious union of the intellectual soul with deity. The instituted mysteries of all ages and countries were concerned in the figuration, by means of ritual and symbolism, of new birth, a new life, a mystic death and resurrection, as so many successive experiences through which the candidate passed on the way of his inward progress, from earthly to spiritual life, or from darkness to light." This perfectly captures the Hermetic ideal, the inner journey of transformation, understood as a process of death and rebirth, ignorance and illumination. French scholar Antoine Faivre writes in his 1994 work, Access to Western Esotericism, that a part of the teaching of Hermes Trismegistus consisted of interiorizing the world in our mind. Wouter Hanegraaff, professor at the University of Amsterdam, in his 2013 book, Western Esotericism, A Guide for the Perplexed, adds that the Hermetic devotee must transcend mere rational understanding and worldly attachments to find salvation and ultimate release through being reborn, quite literally, in a spiritual body of immaterial light. This process of liberation and transformation culminates in spiritual ascent and, finally, blissful unity with the supreme powers of divine light. These perspectives underscore Hermeticism's enduring philosophical and spiritual significance, highlighting its focus on direct knowledge, symbolic language, and the transformational journey of the soul. Hermeticism offered a more optimistic cosmology than Gnosticism. While Gnostics might view the cosmos as a flawed prison, Hermetic thinkers saw it as an emanation of divinity, a school for the soul's education. In their view, to study the stars, the elements, and the natural order was not to distract oneself from God. It was to study God's own thoughts, written into the fabric of reality. The Hermetic path is one of becoming divine through the acquisition of wisdom, an idea closely related to Egyptian temple initiation rites, where the aspirant was symbolically transformed into a god through ritual and knowledge. The Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, thus reflects both the Egyptian belief in the correspondence between the heavens and earth, and the Greek philosophical conviction that the human mind can ascend to divine intellect. Hermeticism's roots in ancient Egypt are foundational to its identity, reflecting a deep reverence for Egyptian religious symbolism and cosmology. As we said earlier, the figure of Hermes Trismegistus is a syncretic amalgamation of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian deity Thoth, who was revered as a god of wisdom, writing, and divine knowledge. Historian Garth Fowden, in the Egyptian Hermes, emphasized that Hermeticism cannot be separated from its Egyptian roots. Hermes Trismegistus is a literary creation whose persona embodies the fusion of Hellenistic and Egyptian spiritual traditions, serving as a bridge between Greek philosophical inquiry and Egyptian mystical praxis. This synthesis was not merely nominal, but reflected the active transmission and transformation of Egyptian esoteric concepts into the Greco-Roman world. Hermetic texts frequently employ Egyptian imagery and metaphor, drawing on the ancient tradition of sacred writing and ritual, which aim to unlock cosmic mysteries through symbolic language. The cosmological framework in Hermetic writings resonates strongly with Egyptian notions of the cosmos as a living, ordered whole, maintained by divine principles. The spiritual goals of Hermeticism, to achieve union with the divine and transcend material limitation, mirror ancient Egyptian aspirations for the soul's journey through death and rebirth. Hermeticism can be understood as both a continuation and a reinterpretation of Egyptian esoteric heritage, re-articulated for a Hellenistic audience seeking universal spiritual wisdom. In a sense, Hermeticism is an invitation. It says to us, the truth you seek is not hidden in a distant heaven, nor locked away in ancient temples. It is within you, and it is reflected in the vast cosmos around you. The two are mirrors, and by studying one, you come to know the other. Hermeticism's enduring appeal lies in this vision of unity, a cosmos alive with meaning, and a human soul capable of infinite transformation. From its origins in the intellectual fermentation of Hellenistic Egypt to its preservation in Greek, Latin, and Arabic manuscripts, to its revival in the Renaissance and influence on modern esoteric thought, Hermeticism has carried forward the promise of inner illumination. In our next video, we will examine Neoplatonism, a philosophical system that developed alongside and in dialogue with Hermetic thought, with each influencing aspects of the other within the spiritual and intellectual currents of late antiquity. We will uncover how thinkers like Plotinus expanded on ideas of divine unity, the soul's ascent, and cosmic hierarchy, building bridges between philosophy, mysticism, and esoteric traditions that continue to inspire seekers today. Emerging in the late antique world alongside Hermeticism, Neoplatonism profoundly influenced Jewish, Christian, and Islamic thought, shaping how Western spirituality understands the cosmos and the voyage of the soul. Where will this journey take us after Neoplatonism? Like and subscribe to find out. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Find more at joinseek.org.